just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and other people's success is my success, and vice versa.
Because you know what, like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. Well, welcome back to another episode of Truth Seekers. Coach Nick Davies, myself, Coach Josh Greco. This is part 2 of 2 of our episode. Coach, maybe like we like to do at the end of our episodes, right? A little recap, something that we're taking away. Let's make sure that we frame a word that we used in last week's conversation. Frame what we've identified so far, and then how we're going to frame today's conversation.
Overall frame was to get more clarity on improvement of the process we called out. And in this case, was your particular process of taking a potential prospect to a client. What does that look like? And get some more clarity and specificity of that, and share that and go a bit deeper into it as well. And we really got to, okay, well, what does that connection look like? And then add the value add. And we really talked through those calls. And we got to really the end of the second call. And that's where we left off.
All right. So call number 2, should we have a client by now? Where should we be?
Could be. I mean, I guess that's a good part of it as well, right? It's like there's a process, but it's 100% flexible as well as being 100% scripted. And so generally speaking, and probably that's a good place to come back to then. I don't know if you even know this. I don't know if I know this for myself, but what would you say if you had to say, like, what's the average? What would be the example of the initial contact to starting a client relationship? How many calls do you think?
Yeah, I think that's gotten less for me over time, whereas maybe it started out as 4, 5, 6. I'd probably say that sweet spot is in that 2, 3, 4 range for me at this point.
It also depends on where the contact comes from.
Yeah. So that's another thing to note. A lot of my current clients are coming from referrals or connections that there's already some warming up here. Yeah, I think it goes back to our conversation last week about commitment, and I just want to get there quicker. Like, are you in or are you out? I think there's no convincing that we do, right? It's just techniques and questions to get to that answer more quickly for people.
Right. It's honoring your time, honoring their time, and laying it out, right? You said the second call was just laying it up front. Okay, what and then making sure that we went back to what did they commit to last time? Did they do it? And zeroing it in, making sure that we get the commitment, and it's just avoiding the gray at all costs. Just make sure we know that we are in the either moving forward or out, and that allows everyone to honor everyone else's time, and also to share the standards that were set when you work with someone as well. So it's take us from that point where call 2 expectations, and then the call 2 would be what? If the first call was just about understanding where that person is, what do they want them in life, perhaps what about their business is, what might hold them back a little bit, sharing a bit about what coaching is, what Pro Advisor Coach is, who you are. Second call, review some of the expectations, what do they want to get out of it, dig a bit deeper. Where would you take it from there?
Yeah, how might coaching be valuable for you? What might you use coaching to achieve with your time? What are some of these important things that coaching can keep front and center for you that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle? Notice those are framed questions right there, right? So there's a bit of framing that's happening right there, but the right people will get excited about how they're asked, right? And then also what they might answer with those. Like I from the other perspective, I would get excited about that. I know that I'm not my most reliable friend when it comes to keeping front and center what's most important. Sometimes I run or flee, or sometimes I'm blind to it. So to have that, to reinforce that, or have that person reinforce, well, what would that even be? What would it look like? Because then we start to create the value of what this would be worth to them.
And then what's the initial response that you find? Like, so put yourself in perhaps a different pair of shoes, if you would, coach, right? From the outset, from not being a coach and not seeing it, what might be a response that is perhaps not value add, but something that might be an instinctive response to that place?
You can help hold me accountable.
Right. People see that, right? See that, the accountability. Oh, and where do you go with that? Because like, how do you feel about whether that is something we want to go down into or not? Like, where do you do that?
Yeah, I have resistance to that as the coach from this side. I say that's not what this is about. And usually there's a bit of a pause from the other side. What do you mean? That's what I just declared what the value was for me. So there's more questions to be asked after that. But if I'm doing any sort of pulling, this is not going to work. I'm not here to help hold you accountable. That is what happens. That's part of the value, I suppose. But it's about getting excited and being reminded about what's possible. And it's not me sitting here saying, did you do what you said you're going to do last week? Like I said, that's part of it. But it's also, it's holding that standard of what greatness looks like, of what potential looks like, of expanding something that you don't even see at this point. So to your point, it's kind of hard for them to answer because they don't know. They don't know the potential at this point. But to push that, credit to your question there, what is a typical response? That's usually what you get. So to expand beyond that, I'm also adding value in that way right there.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like it's always value add. Like it doesn't matter where you are. It's always okay. Oh, now here's an opportunity to look at things differently. And again, this is why that's why this part is the same as the coaching part in many senses, because it's still continuously offering different perspectives and different action. One of the things I always say is I'm looking for people that are open to new perspectives and taking new action. If you are not open to doing those things, coaching is not the right thing for you.
The anti-sell.
It's not. I mean, it's not right. Like, I mean, if you can really say, I'm not open to new perspectives, to new actions. What does that say? Where else does that show up in that person's life? Because what you're saying is that I can't even answer that question because I'm not open to it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So again, it allows for awareness in that person, and then, of course, the choice is the choice. But most of the time, when we're in a place of what coaching is, it's not even, they haven't got to even the awareness of what it is, let alone do I want it or not. So it's understanding of what actually is this about. Like, oh, you'll help me keep me accountable. Well, you could say, I'll help you keep yourself accountable. That's part of it.
Yeah.
It's because help hold me keep accountable. I find that good, but that assumes that they've already figured out everything they could ever want and they're doing the things to do it. And that's a constant shuffle as well. And then how do you know, how does this person qualify themselves in for a following call?
Yeah.
What do
So
you
at
need to
this
hear?
point, I'm looking to lock it in. Like, are we going? Are we doing this? So once that, with those framed questions, some of those answers come through, there's a specific energy that can manifest in the form of words or body language or many different ways, ideas. We're talking about this, and then it's just reinforcement of that. Okay, imagine this every week. If you think this is good right here with our conversation, what I can share with you with what my other top clients achieve is that the more that they do this, the exponential their results get. And there's compounded interest on top of just a couple of great conversations on back-to-back weeks. The more committed you are to this, the higher you will achieve, the more you will progress in your pursuit of something beyond what you might even think you're capable of, as we sit here today. Who's not going to get excited about that? Well, I should say, like, right there are people that might not get excited about that, but it's holding that framing, that standard of, we just talked about this off camera a little bit just a while ago, with like, our energy kind of dictates how the energy will flow in the conversation. If we show up with energy and set that, the people who desire that will come up to meet it. And the people who that's so foreign to or just not ready for, you'll know. I know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to offer the opportunity, and then people have to come and step into it. But you've got to always be 100% uptime. You've always got to be in that place where you're always there, sensory acuity, 100% uptime to give that place where it's always open for people to step into. They have to make a real decision. Have you ever jumped out of an airplane, Coach?
I have not recently.
Not recently. Maybe like in a past life or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Have you ever jumped off something with a bungee cord attached to you?
I haven't. Mm-mm.
Maybe that's something we should do for our next get together. I've done both, and part of my traveling, once traveling, once somewhere else. I've done a couple of skydives, and I've done a couple of bungee jumps. And here's my distinction between them. Bungee jump is way better, like tenfold better. If you're looking at it from the perspective I'm looking at it from. The experience, you might say, is the same. It's like, okay, what's the value in doing this? So it's exhilarating to have the sensation of falling or jumping out of something, or it's just say something you want to do. For me, the value of it was showing yourself you can. And when you're in an airplane, you're circling up to like 15,000 feet, whatever. The whole time you're being talked to, but you're attached to some guy. Like he's in control, and you're still sitting at the side of the airplane going, there's the ground, and we're about to go out to the ground, and it's super loud. And then when he decides to go, we're gone. We're out. Like the whole thing's happening. It's a whole big thing, and all you got to do is nothing. And like he'll let you know, like put your arms out and do a thumbs up because we're taking a picture, and then get to this experience. And it's then when he pulls the cord, it's a completely different experience. It goes from like nuts crazy to like this serene experience of just floating through the air, and it's great. But the value for me is in the decision to do it. And so when it comes to bungee jumping, you're attached to this thing's attached to your feet, which feels like it weighs like 100 pounds, and you're like shuffling yourself to this edge of this cliff, and then they say 1, 2, 3, jump, and then you jump. The distinction is that you have to make the decision to jump. When you're out jumping out of a plane, that guy's jumping and you're attached to him. You're going to go no matter what. But when you're bungee jumping, is there people that stand at the edge going, oh, I don't want to. They have to make the decision to be all in. And that's what we do with our clients and our prospects is here's everything that you need, all the safety harnesses, the loud music to get you pumped up and all your friends around you. And there's the 128 meters, that's the one I did, of just rock to jump on if you want to, but you've got to decide. Like we've done everything, but we can't do the fun, we can't jump for you. And that's the offer that we present to people in their lives. Come take the jump into the possibility deep down is true, because everyone does know that. That's what we offer. We're saying, come get and be the best version of yourself. Oh, you haven't got it figured out yet? Surprise. We'll get to figure out the best thing you've got for right now. And when we get there, there'll be something else. There'll be something else. That's okay. We're just saying you've got to commit to coming on the journey. And that's what I think that part is, where you said it's imagine doing this every week. It's like, this is what my top clients achieve. But they have to make that decision to jump.
This might be a crime that this is my question after what you just said, because you just said so many good things, and there'd be more to ask. But I'm wondering, just from my perspective here, were you ever the airplane instructor, then the bungee instructor? Did you feel like you were the one jumping with your clients? Like, how did that progress for you in your coaching career? Was there ever that time in the beginning where you were more of the airplane instructor than the bungee instructor?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely.
I'm curious about that, right? Because that
Yeah.
is such a key that I've learned in my coaching career, just what that journey might have been for you. Like, what was there a moment? Was it like, how did you get to that point to where you became the bungee instructor?
There's a few clients that I can think of that we didn't work out with. And it's all comes from a combination of not hitting it hard at the front and not allowing them to jump into it. It's happened on some joint work experiences where I felt like the relationship wasn't mine to start with. We've actually been talking about that lately, some of the joint stuff we're doing right now, right? And you made that very clear that you need to have that, which is, I think, spot on. That's what tends to happen. It's like we start rolling, and then like it's about like it's kind of going, and they're kind of doing the work, and then it starts to be losing some fizz, and then it eventually just kind of fizzles out, right? And then so from a coaching perspective, like that's the opposite of what coaching is. You're just trying to hold on to something that's not there. It's like, oh, because it's a paying client. I think that's the danger of when you're first starting out in your business. Like the irony is when you're first starting out, it's the most important to work with the right people and just get as many people in as you can. But it's also the most important that you hold the standard for yourself that they are the right people, because that's what you're building from. That's what you're aiming to. And so you've got like this double whammy effect of you've got to hold the highest standard because you're just starting out, but you also got to work with as many people as you can work with because you're just starting out. So there's more pull to do things that perhaps aren't quite in line with what you know is really true.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate that answer. And I think part of that lesson for me is it's progress over time, right? So there maybe those
Sure.
experiences with those clients had to happen
Absolutely.
where it kind of fizzled. That's how progress happens, right? You learn through failure sometimes.
Yep. Either we win or we learn, right? I mean, it's the same thing. And the game to play, of course, is what we've referred to as CANI, constant and never-ending improvement, which is where we're learning as we're winning.
Always upgrading, always more.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So to pay homage to what your longer answer about the instructors here, this is what I would love to get more into is that part where we create the space for them to jump, right? Because a certain number of people are ready to jump, some aren't. Like I'm thinking from my frame of reference, becoming a coach, right? It was a scary jump for me to do that, and it took some time, right? I had a pathway or a runway. It took me a couple months to be able to hit that button, like, yeah, I'm ready to do this. But to your point, when that happens, the results are so different because it's me that's taking ownership of my life and what I'm doing. This is not about the coach pulling me in a specific direction. It's the coach giving me space to kind of like what you said earlier, play with what's possible and expand my own capacity from my perspective with what I want to achieve, and then give me the playground and the space to dream even bigger. Like I haven't even let myself go here, but now I have, and it can only come when you jump, right? When you're committed to that. I think of like there's so much priming that happens before that's not something that we have access to as coaches when we meet a prospect initially. I have years and years of experience of watching Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and like all these different people that when I heard them speak, it was like, this is different. Like I need this injected into my veins because it's against the status quo. It's against what everybody else is doing. And I'm bored with that. I don't want to do that anymore. This speaks to me. This is my language right here. And the whole coaching world was more of that for me. Whereas that was like a side thing that I liked the way it tasted. Now, like every meal is like that for me. I can't get enough of it.
then it's self-perpetuating. You know, the more that you're into it, the more that you're experienced in it, the more that you learn, the more reps you get, the deeper that you grow, and the more value that you can add, right? And so like it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's just like it grows by itself, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so you just kind of breezed really quickly on some huge principles there. I wrote down, the deeper you go, the more value you can add. That's what being a coach is all about, right? When we talk about adding value, I can add value in a conversation by getting you to think about something differently. But when we talk about like exponential results, we're talking like life-changing things that coaching can bring about. That's what excites me. That's what gets me fired up.
Right, and like that stuff that happens in delayed time, in lag time, is we're talking multiple years of stuff, and that sometimes can be a thing like, oh shit, well hang on, I've got to wait like multiple years to get any results. Like, well, no, that's not what it's about. You got to remember that you're getting results all the way through, because it's a continual process of layering on the awesomeness that you're doing, client, right? Like it's, if your goal is 1 million and you're starting at 0, you're like, oh, I've got to wait 3 years for 1 million. So, but don't forget, after the first week, it'll be 1, then it'll be 2, then it'll be 3, then it'll be 4, then it'll be 5. And you're like, oh man, I've got to wait like 3 years still of only on money on 5. It's like, well, yeah, let's keep playing. And 6 months in, we're now like we're now at like 200 or whatever it works out as. And like, so it's like, oh, I'm at 200. I had nothing before. Look where I've come. So you're constantly celebrating the results. That's why progress equals happiness. So there's results all the way through. The million is the goal or not the goal, or it's either a milestone or a goal, or like a check-in point, or the ultimate vision. That just depends on scale. Where are you looking at it from? It's not like you've got to wait just to get to that, because the irony would be, if that was the case and you could go directly to the end and get the thing that you wanted to get to, it would have no value anyway. You have to go through the journey to get there in order to get the value from it. Case in point, and a client today was talking to me about one of his team that finally got an opportunity, because they passed an exam, to start working with him, and could do it. He's been waiting like a year to start this stuff, and he's like, suddenly he's doing it. It came to him and complained that he wasn't getting there quick enough. It's like, you haven't done the things that I already said you're supposed to do, and you were complaining about not having more. So come on. So, but yeah, I just want to get to the place where I've got X amount in my clients, and like, it's like, well, we can't go check directly to that place. It's the outcome. And even if you could, you wouldn't know what to do with it. What happens if you suddenly had a book of 100 clients to serve? It's like, you wouldn't know what to do, because you've got to go through the first one to get to the second one, to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth. It's the journey itself which creates the outcome. There's no outcome without the journey. And if you could get it, you couldn't use it, and it would hold no value, because you wouldn't appreciate it, because you haven't been on the journey to get there. That is why, I find that so helpful. It's like, stop looking for shortcuts if there's no shortcuts. And even if there was, you wouldn't want to take it. So I'm glad that there's no shortcuts. And the times when people think there are shortcuts, what happens, right? They're all the cliches. It's like making money quickly or whatever it is.
And the shortcut is the journey, right? Because you won't get there without the journey.
Well, exactly. That's exactly the point, right? The shortcut is the journey.
Yeah.
And that is the quickest way. But I often say, there's no silver bullet to anything, but if there was a silver bullet, it's the fact that there's no silver bullet. Stop looking for it. Go on the journey, right? Like, it's quick, get rich quick schemes, or like get ripped quick schemes, or like, get whatever it is. It's like, I believe that pretty much every program or like projects thing that you go out there and buy that has a process to it for whatever you want to achieve. Like, if you want to go and be a real estate investor, and there's a program you can go buy there, is like 10 grand, and you follow this and you follow that. People want to say, does it work? It's like, I believe most of those things work. What I also believe is that most people won't do the work to get to the outcomes that they think they can get. And so they're focusing on the thing doesn't work. It's not the thing, it's them.
Yeah. And your your diatribe there is so well articulated. I wrote down something that might resonate with you. The person that you become when you have 100 clients is so different than when you have 0. The person you become when you have 100 clients compared to when you have 98 clients is this little bit of difference. I think that's what you're saying, right? So it's these incremental progress things that, hey, sure, if somebody didn't see you for a couple of years and then all of a sudden they see you with 100 clients and the last time they saw you with 0, that's the shortcut right there, right? Because it's like, holy shit, what have you been doing? I've been on the journey. I've been doing the work. I've been at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 first before I was at 98, 100.
That's super well articulated, coach. That you're not the same person. That's why people that often win the lottery, like, oh, you got 10 million bucks. It's like, and then next week haven't, because
that's the opposite example, right? That is the shortcut right there.
right.
And we know how that ends. Jet skis and bankruptcy.
Lots of cars. And it comes down to the fact that we want to take the shortcut because we think we can achieve that short-term goal. We believe we can, but we believe the long-term one is too far away and we can't get there. But it's the opposite. The long-term one always requires that you start and you keep going and you continue with life. But before you blink and someone comes back around, it's like, oh, how did you get there? It's like, well, how did you manage that overnight? It's like, what are you talking about? It's like someone coming and seeing like Waverley and like, oh, isn't she got big? It's like, what are you talking about? It took 5.5 years to get that big. Like,
Yeah.
You see it every day, right? It requires a different look to see what you built and what you put in.
And to somebody watching this, I don't want that to be mistaken with like, well, I got to do this then, like that's, and lament over it. That is the rewarding part. We did an episode, I don't know, maybe half a year ago about like, what do I do when I'm feeling bad or not myself? I can tell you that if you're doing this work week in and week out, there's a lot less days like that. The reward is in the journey as you progress. And that's not something I can, maybe I shouldn't even bother articulating it because it's like, until you experience it, you don't know. Right. And as you go through it, you're like, oh, this is what, because it requires you to stretch yourself. So same principle here, right? You can't stretch yourself from 0 to 100. It's not possible. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be faking it. It's not going to be who you are. These little stretches progressively are rewarding. Yes, it's uncomfortable at certain times, but it's the good part of uncomfortable. It's not like debilitating where I don't have direction or I'm lost. It's I know where I'm going. It's frustrating because I'm not getting there faster than I would want to, but that's part of that process. There's lessons hidden in that part of the journey as well. So the journey is the rewarding part as well. I mean, we said that before, like the results are the victory lap, the cherry on top. We still get the Sunday every week, as long as we show up, as long as we do it.
Absolutely, coach. And I perhaps tie up with this. I think we got to where we want to get to, but maybe there's more. Maybe there's a part two. So I don't know.
Part 3, yeah, maybe part 3.
Part 3A. I would also suggest that perhaps you don't need to articulate that because I bet that everyone listening and watching this can go back into their lives and find examples for them when they did this almost by accident. And not just one example, but multiple examples. If they're willing to look, they will find multiple examples of when they've done this in their life, where like anything that's been maybe they described it as a struggle or hard work, but ultimately the outcome they got to was valuable because of the journey they went on.
Yeah, so maybe that's what we'll take away today. Instead of takeaways, reflection time. Think about when you've already done this in your life. It's part of what we do on our success questionnaire, right? Just to think about that. There's a template here to duplicate, and everybody's done it in some way, shape, or form. It's just acknowledging and paying homage to that time in your life where you've done that. You maybe didn't call it that when it was happening, but you have at least one reference point. I believe everybody does for where that has been the case. So let's just take that, stick it here now, and then do you want more of that? Do you want more of that? I know I do, Coach.
Yes, sir.
And that's why we keep scheduling more and more Truth Seekers conversations, more episodes, because I want more. I got to have more. I need more. Thanks, Coach. See you next week on Truth Seekers.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Thanks to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.